I had to switch it to the quality mic.
Nice. I remember that one. Is that the same one you had?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we had two, right?
Because we both needed one.
Yeah. That was the big advancement in my podcasting, was having two microphones so that I could adjust volume after the fact, because my voice is too loud.
Is it?
Well, it's bassy, right? And microphones pick up lower registers louder.
Mm-hmm.
Something about moving the air. All right, I will jump in right now. All right. Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I'm very excited. I've got filmmaker Brett Nicoletti on Zoom. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Jeff.
All right, and hey, this is going to be a fun podcast because Brett and I have a familiarity with each other. His film, Greg is Here, was at Film Invasion Los Angeles last year in 2022, which was in June. And that was the second time Brett had a film there. You had the film Running Man of Pasadena there, I believe in 2019.
Yes. Yep.
So 2 films, 3 years apart. A little something happened in between that we'll discuss. By the way, we were on Zoom. It's a rainy day in January of Los Angeles. We're both in the LA area, but I'm glad we chose Zoom because I'm glad you didn't have to drive in this weather.
Yeah, me too. Well, everything is Zoom now, right? It's just Zoom everybody.
Zoom everything. But I mentioned Zoom so that I can apologize in advance if the audio quality isn't wonderful and if I am way too loud compared to Brett. I wish there was something I could do about it, but such as Zoom. I'm counting on Zoom for balancing. So anyhow,
I'm sure it'll do a great job.
Thank you. Well, let me add in that Greg is here. Joined Running Man of Pasadena. Greg is here is in the Discover Indie Film TV series. It's in season 7, which I'm very excited about. In fact, it plays with a very unique original documentary. So there are 2 documentaries. I think do you know your episode number? I didn't look it up.
I don't know it.
Shame on me. I normally look it up. But it plays with a film called Pre-Existing Condition, and then Greg is Here. They're awesome. So go to Amazon Prime Video, search for Discover Indie Film, and please purchase season 7. I believe it's $7.99 for 24 indie films. I mean, come on. It's the best stuff from the festival circuit, so I recommend people watch Discover Indie Film. Hey, it is the TV series that was born out of this podcast. And I will add that, so Greg and I are chatty and friendly because I've known you 3 years now.
Yeah. 4 years.
You came over to my house in 2019, and we did a podcast all about you and Running Man of Pasadena.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And so for those who want to listen to it, that was number 108. Hard to believe that was podcast number 108. Believe it or not, I believe this one we're recording right now is going to be like in the 340s.
Amazing. Congratulations.
I have lost my mind. I tell you, it's too much. It's wonderful though. It's lovely.
What a great job though. I mean, that's, just to speak about people's crafts all day. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
It is. I'll just and the pay for podcasting is great.
Yeah.
Although I guess the funny thing is Apple went through everyone put us through this stuff to subscribe, and I'm like, I just can't imagine charging people to listen to these podcasts. I just can't.
Is that even a thing? Does anybody? I mean, I know there's ads on these.
There's podcasts. Ads, and they upgraded stuff. I believe Apple and other services like. I love that guy Preet Bharara, who used to be. I like his podcast a lot, and you hear like the first half of an interview, and it's like, if you want to become a member, it's $1 a month, and I'm like, I love you, man, but $1 a month.
Yeah. I've got a lot of dollars a month. $4 a month, $9 a month. I've got plenty of those.
Right.
Add another one.
Dude, Brett just gave me the best segue. You said the words, how about $4.20 a month?
Yeah, there you go.
I will mention that for $4.20 a month, if anyone understands what $4.20 is normally used for. Editor's note, every time I say Hi TV, I should have actually said TVHi. The service has been rebranded. It is called TVHi, as in watchtvhi.com, TVHi. And you can learn more about it on social media if you go to @WatchTVHi. And that's always TVHi. Back to the podcast. Fun little way to try to get films out for people, which is a smart TV app called Hi TV. I guess it's basically a streaming service, smart TV app / streaming service. For $4.20 a month, you get films that are absolutely wonderful to watch high, is the idea behind it. Although I can promise, just like Greg's films are wonderful, these documentaries are great to watch sober, perfectly sober. But if you are the kind of person who enjoys legally, if you live somewhere where it's legal, I do. But if you enjoy a little THC, whether you're smoking it or doing an edible, whatever, and you're looking for something wonderful to watch in that state, I can promise you everything on Hi TV has been custom tailored. Oh, shit. You could have corrected me in person. I left the Greg is here thing.
I know. It's common.
Is it common? Does it happen to you a lot?
Well, it's actually Greg and Brett. Like when I go to Starbucks, like Greg is like a common misnamed, people will think that I said Greg when I said Brett.
So those who can't figure it out, Brett, who I called Brett all through the intro, and then somehow when I say Greg is here, I started calling you Greg. And so he sent me like the text message on Zoom. You keep calling me Greg. And by the way, Brett, you rarely curse, but I curse. So I'm going to say, fuck, man. I can't believe I here I am saying how I've known him for 3 years, and I'm calling him by the name of the subject of his film. Most recent film.
Yes.
So anyway, of course, should I use weed as an excuse? Like maybe it's because I got high.
Yeah, maybe. Night. Yeah. Or this morning with your coffee.
Got high. I never. I'm an evening person myself.
Okay.
But maybe I was watching submissions for Hi TV, and it's just no.
There's some haze in there.
It is not from any impairment other than being in my mid-50s.
Oh, it's a single syllable. There's an E in there. It's forgivable.
Forgivable, yet. Anyway, there we go. We're not going to redo it. No edits.
Nice.
All right, Brett. So when you were here last time, when you were on this podcast, we talked all about your history, so we don't have to go over that. But it is true that your podcast was August 2019, which means the last time we sat and talked for a long time was COVID hit 5 months later. And I know for your work, it affected you. So do you want to talk about what life was like wrapping up the Running Man in Pasadena? Actually, I guess by the time you did the podcast, you would wrap that up as far as festivals. But you want to share what happened with your life since?
Yeah, well, I mean, like everybody, everything changed forever. I'm sure we discussed. I'm a career editor, so I edit commercials, TV shows, films for clients all over the world, really. And a lot of times that required me to commute. So I had a lot of clients on the West Side. So I live in Pasadena. So did a ton of commuting to edit TV commercials, TV shows, my whole career, 20 plus years now. And I was in the middle of one of those when, in early 2020, and I was working on a job for a high-end tech commercial client. And COVID happened. And just like with everybody else, we went, dark for a week and then slowly started like figuring out how to do the work remotely. And it's just never changed since. I've basically been remote. I would say 95% of my projects, my edit projects, since COVID started have been remote. And I can't say that it's been a bad thing. I mean, the only bad thing about it is that you really are not going to get it. There's nothing quite like sitting in a room with somebody and just going, hey, how about we try this? You try it, you make a decision right then and there. You both have a reaction, either positive or negative. and you can get through things much quicker, and you can be more productive when you've got people in the room with you, even if it's getting a little bit better with these sort of remote edit sessions that we're doing now, like with the Jump Desktop is a piece of software that I've been using quite a bit, where I've got the client looking at the same timeline I am, and then our mics are both on, and we can play and stop, play and pause, and chat about what's going on. But it's still not quite the same, right? You're not looking somebody in the eye. It's just so that changed quite a bit.
Yeah. And there must be something, right, when you're sitting in an editing bay and the person you're collaborating with like points at the screen and describes something they're seeing. Yeah, that's hard
Especially
to do virtually.
With commercials and all the graphics, it becomes very it's very visual, and every frame counts because commercials are either 15 seconds or 30 seconds generally. That's all changing now, of course, with Instagram and 6-second ads for social media. So I started doing remote jobs. It was everybody was figuring stuff out, so finding work was a challenge. But I was cobbling together projects here and there to make a living. I had also, right before COVID, I had filmed something for an organization called Repair Cafe International, which is a nonprofit that was started in Amsterdam, I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, by a woman named Martine Postma. I had read an article about Repair Cafe Pasadena in the Pasadena Star News, which is the local Pasadena newspaper. And I went down there, and I remember reading the article, and I was sitting next to my daughter, and I was like, this is a movie. And basically the organization, try to be as kind of brief as I can about it, but it is a nonprofit organization that brings community members together who are handy, who can, fix stuff, and members of the community that have broken stuff bring their broken stuff to this event. Happens once a month, and the handy people fix the broken stuff for free. So, you've got lamps, pair of jeans that are ripped that need to be sewed, coffee makers, radios, jewelry, knife sharpening. There's a masseuse on hand usually, so they do body fixing, bicycles. So it's a really, really positive organization. And now there's 2,500 of these worldwide, at least, everywhere. Moscow, South Africa, Brazil. There's 500 in the States. I'm just throwing out numbers here. I'm sure I'm completely wrong on most of them. But I had already filmed the Pasadena event, two Pasadena events. I interviewed the founder, Martine, over Zoom. And she was in Amsterdam. That interview happened during COVID, like at the very beginning. And I had already interviewed some local volunteers here in Pasadena. So during the beginning of COVID, I was like, I'm going to cut this thing together, put that together, and so that was one film project that I finished that went on the Repair Cafe website. A lot of great feedback, and Greg Marquez was the knife sharpener for Repair Cafe. And so that's where I met Greg. Greg is here. And I always sort of was very attracted to him immediately. Reminded me of my grandfather. Very, just a wonderful, warm gentleman who, everybody loved, everybody was drawn to. So as COVID went on, Greg saw the Repair Cafe film, loved it. He said, "Why isn't this on YouTube?" And I said, "It's coming. I just haven't gotten there yet." And then I said, "Hey, what are you comfortable with me coming over and I can see what you're up to?" Because again, it's kind of slow times. I had a lot more time on my hand than normal, and I went and saw Greg, and And we got together, and he was writing a book, and he was building this hugelkultur garden, and he was working on a sculpture. And he had all these like crazy wood sculptures all around his house. And he had like an acre up in Altadena and just lived this sort of bohemian lifestyle. He had told me, this didn't make the film, but he had like ayahuasca ceremonies on his property a handful of times in the last couple of years. Really interesting guy, lived a really interesting life. And so I just decided that I just wanted to spend some time with him. And so I brought my camera, and we just we did some interviews, and we worked on some projects. He worked on some projects, and I filmed him, and sculpting, writing, helping out his community members who needed help. And, I spent a year and a half just kind of like filming and editing and filming and editing. So, and that's where the movie, that's how Greg Is Here, came together. It was just really just a personal project that happened, during COVID. Yeah. And in and around that, lots of commercial projects. I directed a 4-part docuseries for the Mystic Seaport Museum in Mystic, Connecticut, last year, just as people were starting to kind of get back into it a little bit. That was fantastic. I had an actual film crew with me. It wasn't just me and my camera. I actually somebody else shot it, and I just told them what. It's nice when that happens occasionally.
I mean, you're laughing at yourself. I mean, you are 100% a director, even when you're your one-man crew.
Yeah.
But I guess it felt like being a director when you didn't have to wear all the other hats.
Yeah. I'm I mean, yes. Feeling like a director, I always feel like a director when I'm, making the decisions, whether I'm shooting or not. It's just nice to have somebody who, like, I'm not a cameraman, I can, what you see in Greg Is Here or The Running Man, that's the best 1% of all the footage I filmed, right? It's like 14 minutes of of final film, but tens of hours of footage, and it just takes, like, I'm not a cameraman. I'm not a cinematographer. I know what I like, and and when I'm in the editing room, I'll find the pieces that work best. But it's really nice to have a pro who, knows what lens to put on in a certain situation, and knows what the lighting is supposed to, especially lighting. I mean, lighting an interview, all of my interview lighting, all of the lighting in the interviews that I film, I always tend to I'm going to put them next to a window. I know I'll have plenty of natural light there. I'll do it at, sunrise or sundown. I know I'm going to be in a safe space, right? Maybe put a light on their face. But when you need to properly light an interview, you can't always rely on that, especially you don't know what location you're going to be in. So lighting is major help. So we had on the Mystic thing, I had a cinematographer, I had a gaffer grip person, a couple of PAs. I wish I had hired a producer, but in order to get the job, I was trying to keep the budget down. I was like, I can produce this thing, but I definitely needed a producer as well, somebody to handle scheduling, calendar, meals. I'm interviewing somebody, and then I'm on my phone ordering everybody's lunch. This is not what I want to be doing right.
Right. So you staffed up, you crewed up and added all these wonderful professionals to help you with certain things. And now that creates the need for another professional to manage all the professionals or manage the needs of all these professionals.
Yeah. That person's called a line producer or a production coordinator, and it's not creating anything. The person actually exists for a reason. And, managing the people who are going to, hey, this interview's going a little long. Let me reach out to the next person to let them know we're going to be a half an hour late. Now, that was me doing all that stuff. And then doing the schedule when I got home at night to my Airbnb in Connecticut, typing up what we're doing tomorrow and sending that out to everybody, and, all that stuff. So it's fine. It worked out great. It's a great experience, but now I know that next time I will not be doing that job.
Absolutely. Well, it's fun. So I'm going to call back to something you said a bit earlier, which is you joked about using the best 1% of your cinematography. Does that mean that you're when you're editing your own docs, are you? I mean, is it a balance between choosing the best images and the storytelling, or is it really more storytelling?
The storytelling is first and foremost, certainly, so I will with something like Greg or The Running Man, I will craft the story together based on the interviews and maybe some like verite scenes that I may have been lucky enough to be a part of, just depending on, sometimes he'll have like for Greg, there'll be a project that he's working on, like helping his friend install a bed into his RV. You never know if that's going to be something that's turns out to be a nice scene or not. Sometimes it won't. We had a scene where he and that ended up being great and ended up being a major part of the story. And I was able to use interview lines from Greg that supported what you were seeing in the RV, and wasn't necessarily, when we did the interview, we weren't necessarily talking about that, but his philosophies fed into that, what you were seeing there. We had another scene where he took out all of his 10 wood sculptures, and was sort of did like a demo to a gentleman who was visiting him that day. I didn't use anything, not a piece of sound, I don't think. There might have been like one piece of sound I ended up using from that day, but I didn't use anything from that day because it just didn't work. I don't know. I can't say anything else other than it just, I learned a little bit about the sculptures for my own knowledge, but that scene didn't make it, because it just didn't fit with the rest. So, but I will always put the story together based on dialogue from interviews and dialogue from verite, and then I will know if there's visuals that are needed, right? That I need to then go get, right? I'll have the scene put together, and I would call up Greg and say, hey, I've got to come over and get some gardening footage because we've talked about this and I need to get some of the, so then I'll think about the shots and try and, try and make them look as pretty as I can. But a lot of that is like, okay, I'm going to get wide. I'm going to get close. And I know eventually I'll find something, but I think a cinematographer would be able to, kind of like look at a scene and be like, this is what we want, and be much more efficient when he's filming or she's filming. Then maybe
be more efficient, but the way you do it works, and it obviously makes sense that instead of shooting tons and tons of stuff and then diving into the editing room, you start putting it together and see things you need. I guess that's an advantage of doing people who are local to you and whatnot. And I love you mentioning when you talk about the verite moments, I can't help but think of the joke that Greg tells on screen. And
Jack and Jill.
And his on-screen audience, the woman he's telling the joke to, does not get the punchline, and then he continues trying to explain the joke, and it's just wonderful and hilarious. And I assume that's a verite moment that you certainly weren't planning.
No, not at all. I mean, it was a completely, it was very, very fortunate that I was able to get it. It was just three old people walking down a hill, right? And so he decides to tell this Jack and Jill story because they're all struggling. He wasn't struggling. The other two were definitely like having a hard time getting down there. And then that's just Greg, right? That's like his personality in a nutshell. Like he is like warm and giving and loving, and he will he's a great listener, but he also can noodle people if he wants to. And because he's 84 years old, he's allowed to do whatever the hell he wants, right? Because he's now the elder person in the room all the time. And so, it's not mean-spirited. It's just, it's all in good fun always, and Pia got a little hot-headed. She got a little upset, but they have a great history and they're friends, and and that's how it goes. They're friends. Those are friends too. That's Yeah,
I mean, I think that's what makes your films so delightful, is that you're telling a story. Like obviously, like the Repair Cafe thing might have been the source of the story, and you show Greg going to one and this and that, but then you also make it, it's a lovely balance, I think, between what would it be called, like social consciousness and what this person's goals are and philosophies and things, and the story, and then a personality piece where we get to know someone who, like you said, everyone who meets Greg Marquez wants to be his friend and wants to, he even has some gatherings, right? But yeah, so we get to hang out with a person and it feels fun and natural. And then we also, fascinating stuff about water conservation and environmentalism. And my God, I was just so impressed with him. And of course, I think I always make a point of saying it when we're sitting on the stage at the theater doing a Q&A, which is your filmmaking and your editing is so good that we just enjoy the people you're putting on screen, and we don't even think about the filmmaking. It just permeates into us that, like, now I know who Greg Marquez is. I can't remember the running man's name, but
yeah, well, it's Hike Zakarian.
Hike, yeah. Yeah. But and also, it just occurs to me as we are two middle-aged white guys talking on Zoom, that also your subjects, Hike is, we live in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles has thriving communities, and I consider it a wonderful melting pot, my hometown. And Greg is Mexican American, right?
Filipino
American, that's right. Yep. And has an amazing personal story you tell. But yeah, I've been friends with Filipino Americans my whole life living here, and certainly the Armenian community is so, and these are underrepresented communities that you're not hitting us over the head with, hey, the people who aren't white Christians are contributing to our culture. You're just highlighting how these wonderful personalities, these wonderful people who are doing something for the world.
Yeah. Well, person's a person, right? And LA is such a great, it's our strongest asset, right? It's like, your neighbors don't look like you, most of the time, we're all very different, but we're all very similar.
And thankfully we kind of stopped noticing, right? Which is well, now if I was about to joke about regions of our country that may not like that, but yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to just stop noticing.
Yeah. And the Repair Cafe organization seems to attract, what's great about that organization in particular, diversity aside, it's just a bunch of positive do-gooders, people who like just want to be part of the community and just want to meet neighbors and just want to help people out. And they have sort of figured out that actually helping somebody is, giving more is you're getting more out of it yourself than if you just try and be somebody who doesn't want to spend their time volunteering for 3 hours on a Saturday morning because it's a hassle, and it's more like 6 hours when you come to prep and all that. But they are all friends. That little pizza party at Greg's house, those are all Repair Cafe people. Those are all people who volunteer for the organization. And they've all got, nothing. They're just warm and lovely to hang out with. And I'm just so grateful to have kind of like tapped into that a little bit. I'm not a member. I don't fix stuff, but that was, but it's great to have access to those people, to have met them and to see, this is something that I would, probably 90% of Pasadena doesn't even know that it exists,
Yeah. Well, and you may not fix stuff, but you shot something for them and it's on their website. I was going to add the social, whatever you want to call it, the consciousness thing of they are sparing things being thrown in landfills. Yep. That's they're having a great time, and they are helping individuals who don't want to have to buy a new lamp. They're also keeping lamps out of the garbage, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the concept. I mean, Martine is, she's an unbelievable woman, and she's very much driven to make this thing, sort of a household name. She really, I mean, it really is. I mean, these things all exist. They're either they're going to stay in your homes or they're going into a landfill. I mean, that's the bottom line. Maybe they're going to the thrift shop and going to somebody else's home, which is also great. But they got to work first, and so a broken toaster is not going to do anybody any good. But most of the time, these sort of household appliances like a toaster or a lamp, these folks, it's very simple. It takes them 20 minutes, half an hour to fix it. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this works again. Great. I didn't have to throw it away. But most of us and I still do it. And even though I know this organization exists and I've got all this computer equipment hanging around, my knee-jerk reaction is like, throw it in the trash. That's the easy thing to do, But
for sure. Also, yeah, in one's home, it's very easy to get on the anti-clutter parade. And I'll say to the wife all the time, you know what? We don't need more stuff. Let's get rid of this stuff. I just want to get rid of it. And we normally do drop it off at a thrift store or, but yeah, it's, I hope I remember about Repair Cafe if there's something that's broken.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a great organization. Yeah,
absolutely. Repaircafe.org, I believe.
That is correct. Yes. And they have a little button on there. You find your closest site and they're everywhere, literally everywhere.
Excellent. Yeah. And so is this just going to continue being a bit of your passion whenever you find a small inspiring topic to just make a short doc about it? Or are you thinking of taking on a bigger, or you're just too busy working and making a living and raising kids to sit down and go, I'm going to put 5 years into a feature doc?
Yeah, I mean, my kids are a little bit older, so they require less of me now. So I would love to take on a larger project. It's it is very hard to get people to see your short content. I mean, that's part of what I what I love about what you're doing is that you are constantly getting, you're one of the few places that I know that promotes kind of like short form indie content. And I'm very grateful to have met you and to have, gotten my 2 projects onto your platforms. But, with a feature, you have more options. You can perhaps reach a wider audience. I mean, ultimately, I've been editing my whole life. I like to edit. I don't think I'll ever stop. But I really have sort of found something that I could see doing into my 70s, which is making documentary films. And in order to do that, I need to produce content that is, sellable. And the short form, the 14-minute documentary is not there's not a huge market for that product, right? And so, but like, the 6-episode series or the feature length, whether it's an hour, maybe a little longer than an hour, you have way more options and it can maybe start making a living. If I'm sorry about that. That's my alarm to let the dogs out because it's supposed to stop raining at this 1:30 today.
Well, if you need me to pause, we can always pause. I mean, dogs matter too.
No, it's okay. I can always walk them. So yeah. So, I mean, not only that, but it's obviously more challenging, right? Like a short 10, 12, 14-minute film is challenging, but I've done that twice now, not including the many nonprofit videos that Repair Cafe and Mystic Seaport is a nonprofit. Those were all 4 or 5 minute pieces. I've done a lot of work with a local charter school, made a bunch of videos for them. But the hour and a half, it's a whole different animal, right? I've edited those, but I've never actually directed them before. So it would be something that I'm very interested in pursuing. I have a project that I'm developing right now. It's a very long-term project, partially because I only have a certain amount of time, partially because it just is going to take a long time for this particular organization group to get their feet underneath them, and lots of stuff is going to be happening along the way. They happen to be in Minnesota. That's an issue. So yeah, I definitely have feature length endeavors and goals. And part of that is to see that I can do it, challenge myself. The other part of it is to hopefully there's a better chance for me to make a living as a filmmaker, and which includes my editing, but not not solely dependent upon my editing background.
Yeah, Lord knows it would be wonderful to not have to edit commercials to fund the docs, but actually have the docs be their own beast. Does make me wonder. Yeah, it would take so much work. Oh my God, you would need so much help. In my mind, I was thinking maybe Brett can do a whole season of the short form ones and find 10 fascinating, inspiring people. That's probably as much work as a feature.
Yeah, well, finding 10 different people that fit the right sort of
10 Gregs.
Theme, 10 Gregs. I'm sure it's as much as of a feature except for the fact that maybe timeline wise, you don't need as much time to for stuff to happen, right? I mean, the docuseries now are some of them are great, some of them are less so, but they're also like, it's like reality TV almost, right? It's like they've written a script for them, and they're very much they're able to, they also have production teams and different directors doing different episodes, but they're able to put these things together in a year where you get 6 episodes for a series that are all an hour long in a year, maybe a little more than a year, maybe a little less than a year. And that's because they've basically written the story before they've even started shooting. And they go out there and they get it, right? Which is great. I mean, I'm all for it. Listen, I'm in. I mean, these are still real people that you're, whose stories you're telling. You're just kind of, you're very much involving them in the filmmaking side of it, and kind of putting them in situations that will help the film, right, or help the episode or whatever it might be. But it's still you're still discovering something about real people doing real things, and having an impact in their lives, whether it's positive or negative or socially aware or not,
sadly the streaming services are they found out that it's viewership gold when they do a creepy cult, right? Like they're nonstop hitting us with cult documentaries now.
Yeah, or true crime is biggie.
True crime, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's all, I mean, so everybody's going to make a living, whatever is interesting is what's going to sell the best. And so, I mean, for me, just being behind the camera, being somebody who gets to sort of drive the story or find the story, versus somebody who, gets handed a bunch of footage, still finding the story there, but very much not the head creative voice in that. I'm ready. I'm very ready, and it's a major goal of mine to just be more of sort of like the one who's doing the investigating, the one who's doing the research, the one who's asking the questions, who, I'm finding, I did not think that this was going to be something that I would be interested in, but I've just found that like there's certain topics that I'm interested in. And if I can't get somebody to shoot it for me, then I need to shoot it myself, Yeah, it's a goal, certainly.
I mean, this podcast should never be about me, but you're reminding me of myself. And then I'm like, if I could just find people to do some of the work related to these things that I don't want to do, so I can focus on, I have this actually with the podcast that we are currently recording. I'm like, I wonder if I could find a college kid who I could just record them and then say, okay, you throw the music on, you do this, you do that, and then you upload it, write the blurb. Funny thing is I'm trying to dodge about a whopping 20, 30 minutes of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet,
but times what? 300 and something podcasts now.
Times 3 per week at this point.
Plus all the other stuff. It's not the only thing that you do, right? I mean, the film
not festivals. The only thing. Yeah. So yeah, the idea of getting help so that you can focus on the part that matters most to you, I guess, is really the way it goes.
Yeah.
So I know how you feel.
I mean, you'll probably be there in 5 years, 10 years, right? Like eventually it's going to happen. Like you're going to have a team underneath you that are doing those things for you, because you're just not going to be able, you won't have time, Well,
I'll either stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop. I mean, heck, we're on season 7 of the Discover Indie Film TV series. And I'm like, why would I stop? Season 8, by the way, is kind of fun. Season 8 is all dance films.
Oh, cool.
I got invited by a filmmaker who was at, I think Film Invasion Los Angeles, might have been Sherman Oaks Film, but she started her own dance film festival in the UK and sent me an email saying, hey, I really like talking to you. I told her how much I enjoy dance film, and she was like, do you want to guest curate for this dance film festival? And I was like, sure. And then I said to her, these films are so amazing. You want to, she had me be a guest curator. I'm like, do you want to be a guest curator and do a season of Discover Indie Film where you just tell me what films go in what episodes, and we'll put them together, and it'll be all dance films for a whole season. And she said yes. So I'm rubbing my hands together because she's exactly the kind of person. Plus, I just think watching dance on film is so wonderful.
Nice. Well, congrats. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I don't have to work as hard on that season.
Yeah, she put it all together for you. Just put your brand on there and call it a day.
Well,
that's great.
It's all fun.
That's great.
You could always do a dance doc. I got a good festival for you to get in.
Okay. All right. I'm in. Yeah. My daughter, well, she's in college. So she was a dancer all through high school, but not at the moment, but she's an actor. So maybe she'll pick it back up at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah. So
then you would have really liked, right there. You would have really liked one of the documentaries we had at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival 2 months ago in November. It was called Dancing Dads. Nice. And one of the a ballet academy in the San Fernando Valley, once a year when they're doing a big recital, they bring out about 15 dads, and they make the dads learn a very rudimentary dance performance. And then these guys who really aren't very good, they do it. They do it because their daughters say, I want you to. And it was really pretty sweet.
That's very
sweet.
Your
kind of doc because it's positive and but anyway, and turns out you're the dad of a dancer. So hey.
I am the dad of a dancer. Yeah. And I'm an amateur dancer myself. That's a kitchen and living room dancing only.
Yeah, I'm only allowed to dance if I'm alone in a room. If my wife sees me dancing, she just looks at me and asks me to stop.
Yeah, what the hell? That's I mean, you should be allowed to dance.
I should. I find myself graceful. I'm expressing something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be something hideous to the rest of the
world. Yeah, she needs to put up with that. Come on.
Well, she does, but also I like being on her good side. I think you understand. I want to be, well, anyway, not about me. So that's very cool. And as far as, so you mentioned the other thing you're working on. Is that something like the one that you had the help on? Do you know where that's going to end up?
The project that I'm developing right now?
The one that you crewed up and you had.
So that was a 4-part docu-series for Mystic Seaport Museum. They were all 4 5-minute films where we focus on a specific part of the museum. So we did an overarching film. We did a piece about the shipyard where they restore these. They worked on the Mayflower there. They worked the Mayflower 2, which is a replica of it, but it itself has been around for, I don't know, 100 years. They have a ship called the Charles W. Morgan, which is the oldest whaling vessel in the country. It's 1865. It's this massive wooden ship. They work on only wooden boats, restored wooden boats. So they have a shipyard that focuses on that. So we made a film about them. We made a film that was specifically for their donors, trying to show all the new projects that this museum is doing and trying to get some fundraising. And another one about their education programs, getting kids out on the water in sailboats, learning how to sail, getting an appreciation for the maritime world. So it lives on their website. They're I think 2 of them right now live on their website. There's a third one, the donors one, I think is just they're targeting that specifically to people who might be interested in helping out. And then the education one is, I think, coming to be released when they find a good time to do that. So yeah, that's where all that stuff lives. And it was a great experience. I don't know much about maritime life in the maritime world, and so everybody who works at this museum is it's the largest maritime museum in the country, and everybody who works there is they're all sailors. They're all people. They just all love boats. They've all grown up on boats, and just the sheer fact that every boat is a she. She's out there now. She's gonna coming over to the shipyard. Just certain things like the way they sort of their philosophy about being out on the water and being at sea and what it means to people. It was enlightening, so I mean that's what's great about documentaries, right? It's like you get to in directing documentaries is you get to, and this goes the same with the school in Los Angeles that I've shot 6 films for now. You get to meet and learn about something that you otherwise would not know would know nothing else about. I'm from the East Coast. I've driven by the Mystic Seaport Museum 50 times in my life, going from Massachusetts to New York or Southern Connecticut. They had never stopped by once in my life. But then I'd spend 10 days there in October of 21 and learning all these stories of the history of maritime life in the United States, and that I just otherwise would never have known anything about. Whaling, what the history of whaling is and why they used to do it, and why it was obviously why we stopped doing it. But all these heroic stories of slaves who were brought over and the slaves who worked on boats in New England and how their histories were never told. And now the museum is trying to tell their stories about how important they were to the maritime industry. So, it goes to, it's the same for education or learning about an old man who loves to run long distances. It's like you learn their stories and you start finding yourself, you're on Google, searching about Lebanon, where is this country? why did he come here? Why did he leave Lebanon? So you just, that's what makes it so exciting to me. You know, I mean, it's so much work that goes into it. The project that I'm working on developing now, it's like, oh my gosh, like it's it's so dense. You know, there's so many different things that can be spoken about that goes to this one topic, but it's fascinating. You become an expert on, maybe not an expert, but like, you know, like
you become
enough
knowledgeable.
You can sound like an expert when you talk about the topic, because you've spent so much time in the minutia of it all, you know? And that's what's so great. It's just a great learning. It's a great way to learn stuff. You know, that's what I love about it. So I love commercials too. You know, I'm very grateful for all the work that I've done in commercials, and you know, the filmmaking can be super fun. You can do lots of fun stuff there, but I think I'm ready. You know, like I'm not as cool as I used to be anyway, so I'm not your guy anymore, really, for the advertising. You know, like I can do it, but I'm ready to, you know, kind of dive deeper into some more content heavy, you know, sort of stories to tell.
Well, what strikes me, I feel like the unifying thread between all this work is passion, that you have a passion for learning and documenting things. And then you find subjects where people are, you know, whether it's a nonprofit bringing you in, but there's, you know, that the people working at the Maritime Museum are passionate about it.
Yeah.
Just like the people at Repair Cafe are passionate about what they're doing. And, you know, you think about, I can't help but sit and think, you know, human beings without passion are not making the most of their time, or their brief time that we get on this planet. If you're not passionate about anything, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. And what's great about it too is that it's like when you sit down and you interview somebody formally about what they do every day, I think there's like a renewed sense of excitement on their part too, right? Like you get somebody asking questions about you, and really kind of like, you know, if you've done your homework, if I've done my homework, you know, and I know enough about this person that's sitting in front of me that I can, you know, come from a place of knowledge as to like what their job is, and what goes into the work that they're doing, and what they have to sacrifice in order to do what they're doing. They themselves become, you know, sort of re-excited about their work, right? I think a lot of times people will walk away from an interview feeling as though it was almost like a therapy session for them, right? Because they got to really they're listening to themselves as they're talking, you know. They're hearing their passions come out of their own mouths, and they're realizing like, yeah, this is pretty cool this is pretty awesome. And like, they'll tell me some story about something that happened 5 years ago, and they're just like, remember that story for the first time in a while. And, you know, that's life, right? I mean, you get to talk about your life. Somebody's interested in who you are and what you do. And I think that, it's nice when you connect with somebody and the camera goes away and you're just kind of like rapping with them, like you're at a cafe with them, just asking about their life story. I mean, people, if you care enough, I think, about the person that you're talking to, they appreciate that, and it comes out, you know. And when you find that, when you feel that happening, it's a wonderful experience. You know?
Amen. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, in an indirect way, I mean, that describes this podcast, right? This podcast, people get to talk about something they're passionate about and something they care about with someone who cares about it.
Yeah,
who also cares about why you're doing it and what your story is about, because this stuff matters to us. And it's what's better. I have to admit, maybe it's a flaw in my character, or maybe it's just humanity, but sharing obviously, look, I don't just like watching great films and then sitting alone in a room and saying to myself, I just watched a great film. Like I suffer through, I don't suffer, but I watch, up to 800 films for a festival, and then I look at all the rankings from the jury, but I'm excited about showing those films to other people at a festival and sharing it with the world. Like I just find sharing things with other people is more rewarding than just enjoying it for yourself and moving on.
Yeah, and you're great at it too. Like we said before we started recording, I mean, you have a way about you when you have the filmmaker come down and sit with you and talk about the film, you have a great way of making them feel comfortable. Like that setting, whether it's the theater or the intimacy of it, or just the sitting down versus standing up. I don't know what it is, but it works really nicely. And so you're clearly doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
I think you might be right about the sitting.
Yeah.
I think it helps to sit down and know that you're not being rushed, and know that the people sitting in those chairs that are the audience, right? The people in those stadium seats are interested and just watched, and that there's fellow filmmakers out there asking questions. Yeah. I mean, it's a different vibe than the firing squad feel that you were talking about before we started recording, where they just line up a couple of filmmakers at the front of a theater and say, okay, hit these people with a question or two, and then we'll kick them out. We'll kick everyone out.
Yeah, we're all sharing one microphone and we're passing it. Oh, this question is for you. Let me pass the microphone down.
Yeah. And if that person happened to bring a bunch of friends, maybe they're going to get all the questions, and it's going to be like your film didn't even screen. Yeah,
you're right. That's right. Yeah. No, but your format is really nice, and you clearly you make everybody feel at ease. It's it just feels very casual, and you can kind of kick back and chat. It's nice.
Watching films and discussing them should be fun.
Yeah,
I think it should be. Sure. Even the difficult films should be fun.
Yeah, or at least inspiring, or rewarding, or educating. Yeah, educational.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, deep down, human beings, we are social animals.
Yeah. Yeah,
it pays to share.
So I mean, my son now loves watching movies. So it's one of the things that we do together is we saw Avatar this weekend. You just go to the movies and then talk about it afterwards. And it's so funny because he, knowing that I do this, he has no interest, right? This is not something that he's going to be doing, but it's his insight is pretty amazing. I have to say, he will say something about a movie that is, it's just very insightful for a 15-year-old boy. I mean, he's maturing and mature enough to, so a lot of times he'll say something to me and I'll be like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I wasn't even thinking about it in that way. But it's just a great way for me to connect with him. It is one of the best parts about movies is you can spend time. I mean, I did that my entire teenage years, watching movies with friends on VHS tape, and then we would spend an hour talking about it, and then our entire high school lives were quoting movies that we liked and talking. That's a big part of my personality. It always has been. So yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to sit down and talk to somebody about a movie, especially something that I worked on. I get to talk about something that I worked on, and it's a movie and somebody's interested in it. It's amazing,
It's very cool. It's very, very cool. Funny that your son, so he's more interested in the films at the theater than sitting down and watching your work.
Yeah, well, he'll watch it, right? And he has he has good opinions about it. I'll ask him, I'll have targeted questions. Did you get it? Did that make sense? Do you know where they were when they were, when they were in this place? But yeah, of course, he'd much rather watch Avatar than Greg is here.
Well, maybe down the road you'll find you'll do something that totally hits his preferences. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe if I can get Steph Curry on camera, then I'm a winner. I'm going to win.
Gotcha. He's I totally know.
Basketball player.
Yeah. His whole generation just loves Steph Curry. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas I was going to joke that our 15-year-old, I wish we could discuss films, but what we tend to discuss is how hot the guys in the films are.
Yeah.
So when she's like, take me to Spider-Man, and then like the only discussion about the Spider-Man movie is, okay, there were 3 Spider-Men in there, and she was like, I just want you to know, Garfield's actually the hottest guy. Then, because like she was a Tom Holland girl for a while. Anyway, but I'm still game. I'm still game to talk about who's cutest, because that's what she cares about.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Course. Yeah. No problem. You can weigh in on that.
I can. I debated her because she put Toby at number 2. I'm like, nah, Tom Holland's got to be number 2.
Yeah.
Like, Toby's not my kind of
guy. That's funny that she put him at 2, even at her age too.
I think it's just because she had grown tired of Tom. Tom Holland had been number 1 for years, and then she found out about the other spy. And of course, now I'm just rambling, but yeah, when the Spider-Man movie was coming, that we knew all 3 would be in together, I said, well, now we're gonna watch everything before we go see that.
Yeah.
So I believe we'd watched the Tobys already, but then we had to watch the Andrews because I think I had skipped them too.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, kudos to
Andrew's pretty hot.
Well, and I actually really appreciated that one. We talked about how we don't love superhero movies before we started recording, but at least that one was fascinating. I don't know if you saw it, but there was just wonderful scenes where they made up for all the stupidity in the other films, where they sat and discussed, like, wait a minute, you don't have a web slinger? It comes right out of your skin? How does that work? And stuff. And it was, and then they said, wait, you do this, you do that. And so all the differences in the films, it kind of was, it was kind of nice that they acknowledged it.
Yeah. I saw it. It was good. Yeah.
It was fun. It was, hey, it was an admirable, at least finally someone made up for the fact of why man, it'll be pretty sad if they do that with Batman and bring back all the Batmen, but.
Right. Well, they can't do it now. They'd be ripping off Spider-Man.
That's true. There will be no multiverse of Batman.
No, you can't do it.
Although I would love a documentary where we did a compare and contrast of every Batman. Not really. I'll take it back.
Yeah, I think you could do a podcast on that. Probably do it pretty well. You know,
better instinct. Really. See, that's the producer in you.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything we should mention before we sign off? I know. Once I'm making Batman jokes, I should probably stop wasting your time.
I can't think of anything. I always appreciate talking to you. It's always great to see you and catch up. For me, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is searching for stories that interest me and something that I can sink my teeth into. A lot of times I'll start down a road and it just it'll dead end and it'll be over. Whether that's because I've lost interest or the contributors have lost interest, or there's some sort of legality to it that I can't hurdle over. But I'm just going to keep doing it because it's something that I, now have the bandwidth to do. I would encourage anyone to do it also if it's something that they're interested in. And I'm always happy to, if you have listeners who are aspiring to make movies or have already made movies and want to talk to me about something, it's always great to talk to peers or people who are coming up or people who I can learn from. My information is all over my webpage. So anybody who wants to read smile-films.com, anybody who wants to connect with me can always connect. Be happy to talk and
Are you Smile Dash Films? Like, do you do the social media thing, or you don't? Into that?
Not really, just personal stuff, really. No, it's really just the website. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, in the show notes for this podcast, we'll have smile-films.com be a clickable link, as well as repaircafe.org. Might as well do that.
Yeah. Yes.
And
great. Thank you.
All right. I will wrap us up by saying, Brett Nicoletti, thank you so much. You are responsible for two absolutely delightful and entertaining and inspiring documentaries. So I certainly recommend people watch them. And geez, many ways to watch them, but I will recommend two, which is number one, if you go to Amazon Prime Video and search for Discover Indie Film, people can watch your most recent one. Greg is here in season 7, episode 5. I did not look up the first one, but I bet Running Man of Pasadena is probably in season 3 or 4. I think that would check out.
I'm not sure. I was almost going to say season 1, because I feel like you were just getting going, but maybe you already had it running at that point.
You might be right, and maybe I should just like blab on for a second while I try to find it, because I can actually do a search. All right. Well, anyway, if you want to learn, I'm going to search for that, but because luckily I just have to type the word Running Man into the discoverindiefilm.com website, which of course, hey, if you want to learn more about this podcast or the TV series it gave birth to, that is discoverindiefilm.com, and on social media, it's at DIFWins. Brett, you're almost right. Running Man of Pasadena is in season 2, episode 7. So 2, 7, and then
so
7.
We were happy. You were nice. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. And
and the other way people can watch it is if you go to watchhitv.com. That's HITV. That is a new. By the way, there's a free 1-week trial if you want to watch stuff for free, but hopefully you'll stick around. Hi TV is a smart TV app and streaming service that is all feel-good films that are. Everything is well made, and then if you are the kind of person who can responsibly enjoy marijuana in a legal or responsible way, I guess there are responsible ways that are not legal if you are living somewhere where it's not legal, Lord knows. But it keeps adding. I keep seeing headlines like New York State just finally like their last hurdle crossed over. But anyway, I'm not a super weed guy, but I am a super film guy. And these are super films to watch, high or not. So if you go to watchhitv.com, there's a documentary section where both of Brett's films can be seen. And I will wrap it up by we did mention how Brett's films were both at Film Invasion Los Angeles. We hold that festival every June, and it's filminvasionla.com, and it's at Film Invasion LA on social media. And the sister festival we hold every November is the Sherman Oaks Film Festival, ShermanOaksFF.com, and at ShermanOaksFF on social media. And I think I've said everything I'm supposed to. And I guess after we stop recording, you'll tell me if I messed up and called you Greg one more time. But I think I've called you Brett most of the time since my.
No, I think you. No, you got it. You got it.
My God, I know your name. It was just, like you said, it's the single syllable. You should call me Greg in the next podcast.
I'm telling you, it happens. People, I've introduced myself as Brett to people before, face to face, and they've said Greg. And this is way before Greg is here became even an idea in my head. Yeah.
Oh, for me, it was just the screw up of like reading the title and then having it stuck in my head.
Yeah, that makes it even harder.
So hard. I have such a hard job here. All right. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
That was sarcasm. I swear to God, I don't consider this hard. This is a lot of fun talking to people like yourself. So, Brett, thank you so much. And I'm going to thank everyone. Thank you, everyone, for listening.